I met a Gypsy.
Yeah, and I think, we as an industry have too much focused on motocross bike sales or Supercross and how it sells motocross bikes, but it's not necessarily that. There's a lot of motorcycles sold around the world, and it's that, we use the analogy all the time that Mercedes don't sell Formula One cars. Mm-hmm. They do Formula One because it showcases their brand at the highest level and how innovative they are, all those kinds of things. And so Supercross is that. It's the elite level. Not everyone is going to be a Supercross rider. In fact, such a tiny percentage ever will. But it doesn't mean you won't buy a motorcycle or a scooter or a farm bike or something and be influenced by watching your favourite Supercross rider. And that's kind of been the shift that we've had to make, because too often we sort of, it's spoken about like it's niche, but it's actually not, because it's an amazing entertainment spectacle, which isn't niche at all. Supercross and who's actually going to ride Supercross, that's niche. But as an entertainment spectacle, Supercross isn't niche at all, because anyone can enjoy it. We use this example all the time, but one of the first AusX Open events, we had the managing director of Coke there, because Monster sponsored the event. He brought his wife along, who would have been in her mid-50s. At the end of the night, she came down onto the floor and she was just blown away. She said, "This was the best thing. I had the best time. Thank you so much." And we're like, you are not the audience that everyone says is niche to Supercross, But that just proved to us that Supercross isn't actually niche. Anyone can enjoy it. Whether you ride or not, that's a whole different thing. But there will be people that'll get into motocross and dirt biking and adventure riding and other forms of motorcycle riding that aren't necessarily going to be a Supercross rider. Surfing is an example for us. Yeah. Love surfing. My biggest passion other than motocross. But I'm never going to be a pro surfer, and I'm not interested in surfing pipe. I have no interest in it. But I appreciate it.
But you can still be a part of the culture and be a part of the vibe.
I love it. I'm like, this is sick. I'd love to go on surf trips like we've done a number of times. Absolutely froth it, but I'm not going to surf pipe, and I do not care for surfing pipe. And that shows that's the same thing with Supercross. People can come along, appreciate it, be entertained, have an epic time, but not actually want to do it or go buy a motocross bike to race Supercross. Yeah. But they may buy a Honda or a Yamaha or a KTM for something else on the basis of what they've seen there.
And interestingly, Julian Wilson went to one of our first AusX Opens and rides and is a real advocate for the sport. So that's a good crossover. So we took a lot of the first couple of years of AusX Open, our friends and family and everyone we knew that came, particularly the females or non-interested, Supercross fans at the start, how much then they wanted to come each year and how much they supported, how it converted them into following the sport. It really motivated us, obviously, in those early years to keep going, and why we thought we could get to Melbourne eventually and do like what we did with 35,000 fans, and why we think with the World Supercross it can do 50, 60, 70,000 fans. We think there's a huge opportunity for this sport to grow. And we take a lot of energy out of that in those early years, because we did see that. We saw, again, that entertainment audience, and we've seen this with other properties. Nitro Circus is another great example. It only has freestyle motocross, BMX and scooters. It doesn't have a formal racing competition or anything. So we always knew Supercross is bigger than that, because it's a true competition.
You've got a sport
racing
within. It's not just
and you can combine
entertainment
with it. You can combine the best bits of Nitro Circus with it, but you've got a true, and in this case, a world championship, which is really exciting. And we've seen that in even Monster Jam as well, as a great entertainment property and very successful. But again, it's not a true competition, but it does very well at appealing to young kids and family audiences. So why can't Supercross do that? Why can't we develop entertainment to appeal to those audiences as well, but then hook them into Supercross? Because that we all believe should be, and as Adam touched on earlier, we think it can be that MotoGP, Formula One level of sport. It's got the respect amongst its peers. The riders have huge respect globally. They have huge followings globally that also supports that, but they just haven't really had an opportunity like this to go truly global, in our opinion. And to have the opportunity like this and to fund the teams like we are is very unique. And it's not unique to different sports. It's very common to NASCAR charter system, or even the NFL franchise system, supercars, and the rec system that Tony created with supercars. We've just had a white sheet of paper with this opportunity, and we've taken all of the best bits we think from other sports, and then we've applied it. And now Adam's obviously the lead on that, and finding 10 official franchises for the World Championship, which is hugely exciting. And also for those franchises, it's going to be very valuable for them, and that's, you know, it's what's going to be keeping you busy all year. But it's really, really exciting of having a new approach to Supercross as well.
I think too, it's sort of worth mentioning for, I guess, if you're like a casual Supercross fan and you don't know the ins and outs of it, Supercross is owned by Feld by Feld, and then that is like Disney on Ice, it's Monster Jam, it's concerts, and there's like a pretty crazy kind of story within Feld, and it sort of makes sense of why Supercross doesn't have some of these things that you're talking about, because it sort of just doesn't make sense for that particular business model. And I think a lot of people, they look at Supercross and they don't know like the backdoor workings of it, and there's probably a little bit of frustration or a sense of like, oh, why doesn't this happen? Why doesn't this happen? But essentially, like, you've got this massive umbrella company that owns all of these other properties, and essentially it's just like it has events in these stadiums just like revolving, and it's really hard for anyone else to even get in a stadium with anything else because Feld has these deals, and like, so it's not, and to Feld there's no real, that you've got the AMA that works with them, so it's like the people that own the property, they don't oversee the racing, and they're not on the same page, and it's just like, it's a bit of a mess, to be honest. And I mean, if you look at like this year, I'm so sucked into F1 this year. Massive regulation change, huge regulation change, all new rules, crazy new developments. Like, there's so much to follow in that sport, just based on like them changing some rules and some dimensions of different things. And it's like, as a fan experience, like, that sport is giving you so much. And it just seems like with Feld and then the AMA, that Feld doesn't really want to change. Like, it's just a small piece of their puzzle. So it's like, what's the incentive for them to just like year on year push and improve Supercross? It's really not. Like, it just needs to stay in line. And again, it's not talking shit or anything, but this is just like the reality of the business. It's like, that just has to keep doing its thing over there. If it loses a bit of money this year, that's fine. We just need to keep those dates for this stadium, and we need to keep this contract happy. And then on the AMA side, it's like, oh, we can't really do this because Feld's got this, and the TV will do this. So I just think, like, even from the perspective of with you guys, like, it just seems like a lot more control, and there can be real changes made, and it can be done, like, you know. And I always go to the UFC when we're talking about this kind of stuff. It's like, you've got one fucking dude that is like the face of the company. He's the voice of the company. Doesn't give a fuck what people think. Will make it known what they want to do, why they're doing it. Always seems like there's a lot of transparency. And then again, it sucks you in as a fan, because like, there's constantly shit happening. There's constantly, like, you're a part of the conversation. Yeah. Supercross, and I mean, Chase Sexton, when he came on the podcast, I'd never really kind of thought about it in direct terms as he said, but he said Supercross is more of a show than a sport. And I'm like, fuck, I'm over here thinking that I follow a sport, but I sort of don't.
Well, it's the ultimate combo of both. That's what we love about it, right?
But in terms of the way that it's packaged now with Feld, it's like, it's just the same show. Yeah. For 20 years, it's been the same show. It's like, and us on the inside, we think it's a sport. But in all reality, it's a 3-hour broadcast on whatever NBC. The format's the same. Everything's the same. The rules are the same. Everything's the same. We just have been watching the same soap opera for 20 years, you know, and like, on the inside, we're thinking that we're a part of this crazy sport because we know all these inner workings, but sort of just not really what is going on, you know?
Yeah, I think that, you know, and that's what's so exciting for us, is that we have a blank sheet of paper. Yeah. What are the things? How do we completely disrupt this industry and this sport and make it what we believe it can be, which is a global sport? You know, we literally started from scratch. What are we going to do? How do we do it? What are the things that we don't think work currently, and how do we improve on them? You know, and one of them, which to lead in from Sando's point before, is, you know, we don't think that so much of the show should be spent watching people qualify to be in the main part of the show.
Amen.
At an elite level, at a world championship level. Like, granted, at grassroots, you need to have that, of course. And you know, you want to have the privateers coming through, and you want everyone to have an opportunity. But when you're talking the Formula One of dirt bike racing, then, you know, it's the best. It's all about the best. We can't buy a car and have a crack at qualifying at a Formula One event, nor can we do that in MotoGP event, nor can we do that at a NASCAR event or an IndyCar event. But in Supercross, you can. Now, that's all good at a national level, but at a World Championship level, we think it should be all about the heroes, and it should be about the big names, and the show should be, and the event should be focused around them, because people want to see the best in the world, and every minute should be dedicated to showcasing them in the best possible light, you know. So so we went about, how do we do that, you know, and that is where we've come to the we're not going to have qualifying heats through the night. There will be qualifying procedures, of course, but in terms of who makes it to the main and that kind of thing isn't part of it. We've got 10 teams. They've got to have the best possible riders. They've got two 250s and two 450s on each team.
Yep.
Makes up 20 in each class. There'll be 2 wildcards in each class for every event, so we can get local stars to.
So me and Sam can race.
You can try, 100%.
Qualify, to Adam's point. You can qualify to make it for the night, but then you are
promoter's choice.
Yeah.
Then you're in. So, you know, to Adam's point, like you're not, I guess, changing the structure on the main night or the main broadcast that goes global.
Yep.
You know, there'll be support categories and there's ways in which to qualify, and there'll be national championships racing at the events. But for the main 2-3 hour broadcast, it's just the world's best going head to head. And we're really excited about changing the formats. We did that with AusX Open, and we're going to do that with the FIM World Championship as well. So that's really exciting. And I think with regards to Feld too, we've spoken with Dave Prater and we've spoken with Feld, and we've said in the media that championship will run January to May every year. And our World Championship will run probably as early as late June or early July through to November. So we'll respect and for the riders that want to do Supercross only, they'll have a break in between both championships, and they'll be able to do Supercross only, and we can celebrate and grow Supercross as a sport around the world and celebrate the Feld Championship just as much as we can celebrate ours and the growth globally. So that's really exciting for Supercross fans as well.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.